All right, people, here we go. We are going to learn about how the Aztecs built an empire. Students will explain how the Aztecs rose to power by describing the significant events in the history of the Aztecs that led to their control over Mexico in the Middle Ages. So, your main job is to explain how the Aztecs rose to power by describing the important moments of the story I'm about to tell you. Here we go. We're trying to answer this question right here. Why did the Aztec Empire rise to power? Now, you should have already done this note card with your group. So here we go. Let's start the story. Long before, there was a god named Huitzilopochtli. Go ahead, try to pronounce that. Huitzilopochtli. Huitzilopochtli. If you try to pronounce it, good for you. Most of you probably just ignored this. Huitzilopochtli one day killed his nephew Copil. It is said that Huitzilopochtli threw Copil's heart into Lake Texcoco. There it resided until the age of man began. What? Huitzilopochtli killed his nephew Copil right here? I mean, I'll be honest with you, I kind of get it, because my nephew gets kind of annoying sometimes. I don't want to kill the fool, but I get it. So he cuts out his heart and throws it into Lake Texcoco? Oh my God, family problems for real. Now, this was during the Age of the Gods. Many years later, the Aztecs appear. So take a look at this. The Aztecs were a group of people who traced their first home to a mythical place called Chico Moztoc. Go and try to pronounce that. Chico Moztoc. Take a look at this picture, and you can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 caves in this picture. And there's people that are coming out of the caves. This is kind of what a lot of Mesoamerican societies believe people come from. They think that they come from this cave right here. After that, the Aztecs left Chico Moztoc and founded another mythical land called Aztlan. Eventually, the Aztecs had to leave this place called Aztlan. Where was Aztlan? Honestly, historians don't really know. Aztlan could have been over here in northern Mexico, or what's also called the southern United States. Hint, hint, where we live. But they still haven't actually found any archaeological evidence that proves Aztlan was a real place. Think of it kind of like Atlantis for the Greeks. So the Aztecs leave Aztlan, and they eventually enter Mexico around the year 1000 AD. That's when they enter Mexico as far as we know it today. They're going to travel down into Mexico. They're going to get to a city called Culiacan. Something bad's going to happen there, which is going to force the Aztecs to migrate over to Coatepec Hill. Something also bad's going to happen there, which is going to get the Aztecs to eventually move to Lake Texcoco, the same lake that Huitzilopochtli threw Copil's heart into. All right. Now, the Aztecs are going to enter Mexico around the year 1000 AD. Point to the year 1000 AD on the timeline. Did you find it? All right, now point to 1325 on the timeline. That's how long it took the Aztecs to go from the top of Mexico up here all the way down to Lake Texcoco. Now, the Aztecs traveled in small groups called calpulis. Take a look at this picture right here. Whenever I show you one of these pictures come from what's called a codex. And a codex is kind of like a big folded piece of paper with a bunch of pictures drawn by the Aztecs. You can see that there's little pictures of people. These are the Aztecs. And you see how there's little footprints and they're moving across the page? Well, this is telling the story of how the Aztecs journeyed into Mexico. Now, when you see this pictograph over here, or this glyph, remember we did the Mayan hieroglyphs? This is a glyph of a city. So this grasshopper and this other picture of what looks like a mountain or a hill, and actually down here, this is a cactus. This is a symbol for a city that the Aztecs went to in their journey away from Aztlan. Now, the Aztecs kept getting kicked out of wherever they settled because they liked to sacrifice a lot. Now, other societies in Mexico, in medieval Mexico, also practiced sacrifice. We know that the Mayans practiced sacrifice, the Olmecs practiced sacrifice, but none of these people were as into sacrificing as the Aztecs were. They were way too into it. It's kind of like when you have a friend that's just way too into weird horror films, like gory stuff like Saw or Terrifier or things like that, and you're like, dude, calm down with that. The Aztecs were like that, but they were actually killing people in their sacrifices. This is why they kept getting kicked out of wherever they went to. For example, the Aztecs were excellent warriors. The people of a city called Culiacan hired the Aztecs as mercenaries. The Aztecs repaid the people of Culiacan by sacrificing the chief's daughter. Now, I don't know about you, but me personally, if I hire you and you sacrifice my daughter, we gonna have some problems. And indeed, the people of Culiacan and the Aztecs had problems. So they kicked out the Aztecs right away. The Aztecs kept going. Eventually, they built a city at a place called Coatepec Hill, where they experimenting with building with dams and managing water. Here's Coatepec Hill. You could actually visit that today. Coatepec Hill is important to the Aztecs because it is believed that the sun god Huitzilopochtli himself was born at Coatepec Hill. And it's the same god that we learned at the beginning of the story that killed his nephew and threw his nephew's heart into Lake Texcoco. Now, some Aztecs wanted to stay at Coatepec Hill. Others claimed that Huitzilopochtli himself wanted the Aztecs to leave. So the Aztecs have a big question. Do they stay at Coatepec Hill or do they leave? One dark and stormy night, a decision was made. The next day, the Aztec leaders that wanted to stay at Coatepec were dead. They had their hearts carved out of their chest. Oh my God. The Aztecs moved away from Coatepec shortly afterwards. Most of the people that wanted to stay got the memo. If you stay, you're going to get your heart chopped out, carved out. So they all agreed, we going to go ahead and head out. Now, along their way, on their journey, Aztecs claimed that Huitzilopochtli guided the Aztecs deeper and deeper into Mexico. Along the way, he gave them a sacred bow, an arrow, and even a net. These things would come in handy when the Aztecs arrived at Lake Texcoco. Huitzilopochtli brought the Aztecs to Lake Texcoco. When the Aztecs first gazed their eyes upon the lake, they saw an island in the middle, on which there was a cactus. On top of the cactus rested an eagle, eating a fruit of the cactus. Now, in some stories, it is a fruit. In other stories, it is a snake. All right? So it just depends on what myth you're going off of. I've seen both versions. Some myths say that the fruit of the cactus represents Copiop's heart that Huitzilopochtli threw into Lake Texcoco. So trying to bring that story full circle. This is why the Mexican flag looks the way it does today. It's because of these Aztec roots, all right? That's why the Mexican flag has the eagle on a cactus eating a serpent. Once the Aztecs agreed that this muddy piece of swampland would be their home, they set forth on their goal to build a city. What? They're gonna build a city in the middle of a swampy lake? How? Because the Aztecs are smart. Let me tell you how they're smart. The Aztecs turned two small islands. Here they are, the two small islands, in the middle of Lake Texcoco into one big island. How? By gathering dirt, rocks, mud, and reeds. Around 1325 AD, the Aztecs named their city Tenochtitlan. This you do have to know how to say because I will test you on it. So everyone say Tenochtitlan. Tenochtitlan. I know. It's funny because there's tit in the middle. All right, Tenochtitlan. So they turned these small islands into one bigger island, and that's where they built this city. Check it out. Now, it didn't look like this right away. This took many, many, many years to build. But eventually, the city of Tenochtitlan would start as a small, insignificant swamp town and grow into one of the largest cities in the entire medieval world. This city was comparable with Paris in France and London in England. Now, before Tenochtitlan could grow into that magnificent city, the Aztecs had to deal with their enemies in central Mexico. They quickly realized that they would need more friends. Take a look at all these enemies of the Aztecs. Up here in the top row, you have the Tlaxcalans. Down here, you have the Zapotecs. Then you have the Mixtecs, the Chichimecas, the Colimas, the Huastec, the Tarasca, the Cholula. Did they make the hot sauce? I don't know. The Chinatec. All of these were enemies. The Ops. Oh man, the Aztecs were surrounded by them Ops. The Aztecs decided to help out their neighbors, the city of Azcapotzalco, a Tepanec city. Take a look at this map. Find where it says Tenochtitlan. Here's that big island. Now look at where it says Azcapotzalco. Right over here. It's on the coast. So these two peoples are going to link up. They're going to ally themselves, the Aztecs and the Tepanecs. Now, Tenochtitlan and Azcapotzalco, remember these are two cities, worked together until war broke out between them. Oh, say it ain't so. Why can't we just be friends? This war caused the rise of three main cities. So they're going to fight each other. The Aztecs are actually going to win, but there's also going to be two other cities that are going to be important. The three cities were Tenochtitlan, Tlacopan, and Texcoco. The three formed what was called the Triple Alliance, all right? And this was formed in 1428. Remember, Tenochtitlan was founded in 1325, so this is 100 years after the Aztecs first create the city of Tenochtitlan. This Triple Alliance is going to rule almost all of central Mexico together. The Triple Alliance ruled over central Mexico for many, many years. The whole time, Tenochtitlan was still seen as the strongest of the three cities. So the Aztec Empire ruled over Mexico from around 1428, the founding of the Triple Alliance, all the way to 1519. What happens in 1519? That's when the Spanish conquistadores arrive in Mexico and they destroy the Aztec Empire. Now, as the Aztecs would conquer new people, they would force these people to pay the city of Tenochtitlan tribute. These are some cool pictures right here that I do want you to pay attention to. Take a look at how the warriors holding the shields are holding on to the hair of their enemies. This means that they won. Remember, the Aztecs considered their hair to be very sacred. So if they were able to grab your hair in battle, you had to give up no matter what, even if you could still fight, because your hair was sacred and they got it, so therefore they owned you. That was a trick. So this is showing you that these warriors own these other loser warriors. And you can tell also like what tribe they're from based off the symbols of their shields. This is kind of like heraldry. Remember when we made those heraldic shields at the beginning of the year for medieval Europe? The Aztecs had a similar kind of idea. Now, if you look over here on the right, this picture, you can see that these are the things that the Aztecs would ask for in tribute. Take a look over here at these barrels on the right. I hope you can see my mouse, but they have kind of like a chili pepper on them. Well, this is actually a big barrel of peppers. Now, look at this little symbol at the top. This is actually a symbol for Aztec numbers. Same thing with these flags. I'm pretty sure the flag means 20, but I could be wrong on that. But let's assume that the flag means 20. It means that the city that was conquered has to pay the city of Tenochtitlan 20, 40, 60, 80 of these things whenever the city wants it. Okay? Well, they'd have like a deal like, oh, once a year you owe us all these things. So things that would be paid in tribute could be feathers, it could be jade, it could be chili peppers, it could be food, it could also be victims for sacrifice. Oh, here's more